When Sergeant Emily Carter returned home from deployment, she never imagined she'd have to fight for the one thing that mattered most, her son. After months of serving her country overseas, Emily was ready to embrace the simple joys of motherhood: bedtime stories, soccer games, and lazy Sunday mornings with her 7-year-old son, Liam. But life had other plans. Just weeks after her homecoming, Emily found herself in a courtroom, battling not for her freedom, but for the right to be a mother. And what the judge decided next would leave everyone outraged. Emily Carter was no stranger to challenges. As a single mom and a dedicated soldier, she had always juggled the demands of duty and family with unwavering strength. Her son, Liam, was her pride and joy, a bright, curious boy who loved dinosaurs and dreamed of becoming a pilot like his mom. But while Emily was away serving her country, the life she had built for them began to unravel. It started with a knock on the door. Emily had just returned from her latest deployment, eager to make up for lost time with Liam, but standing on her doorstep was a process server handing her a court summons. Her ex-husband, Daniel Harris, a man who had been absent for most of Liam's life, was suing for custody. His reasoning: Emily's military career made her an unfit mother. The news hit Emily like a punch to the gut. How could someone who had never bothered to send a birthday card or attend a school play suddenly claim to care about Liam's well-being? But as the court date approached, Emily realized this wasn't just a legal battle. It was a fight for her son's future. And she was determined to win, no matter the cost. Little did she know, the judge's decision would shock everyone and leave viewers like you questioning the very system meant to protect families. Emily Carter's journey to becoming a military mom began long before the courtroom battles and custody disputes. It started with a dream to serve her country and provide a better life for her son. But life wasn't always easy for Emily. Growing up in a small town, she learned early on the value of hard work and resilience. Her parents, Margaret and John, were her biggest supporters, instilling in her a sense of duty and determination that would shape her future. Emily's life took a dramatic turn when she met Daniel Harris during her college years. Daniel was charming and ambitious, and for a while it seemed like they had a future together. But after Liam was born, Daniel's true colors began to show. He was distant, unreliable, and often absent, leaving Emily to shoulder the responsibilities of parenthood alone. By the time Liam turned 2, Daniel had walked out of their lives, leaving Emily to raise their son as a single mom. Despite the challenges, Emily was determined to give Liam the best life possible. She worked long hours as a waitress, saving every penny to ensure he had everything he needed. But deep down, she knew she wanted more for herself and for Liam. That's when she made the life-changing decision to join the military. It wasn't an easy choice. Leaving Liam behind, even for training, broke her heart. But she believed it was the only way to secure a stable future for them both. Emily's parents, Margaret and John, stepped in to help. They adored Liam and were more than willing to care for him while Emily was away. "We've got your back, sweetheart," Margaret would say, hugging Emily tightly before she left for boot camp. "You're doing this for Liam, and we're so proud of you." Those words became Emily's mantra, giving her the strength to push through the toughest days of training. As the years went by, Emily rose through the ranks, earning the respect of her peers and the admiration of her superiors. But no matter how far she went in her career, her heart always remained with Liam. She'd call him every night, no matter where she was stationed, just to hear his voice. "Tell me about your day, buddy," she'd say, smiling as he rambled on about school, his friends, and his latest dinosaur discoveries. Those moments kept her going, reminding her why she had made this sacrifice in the first place. But even as Emily built a life of service and honor, the shadow of Daniel's absence loomed over her. She often wondered if he'd ever come back into Liam's life, and what that would mean for their little family. Little did she know, her worst fears were about to become a reality. The day Emily left for her deployment was one of the hardest of her life. Standing in the driveway, she hugged Liam tightly, fighting back tears as she promised him she'd be home soon. "Be good for Grandma and Grandpa, okay?" she said, ruffling his hair. Liam nodded, his small arms wrapped around her neck. "I'll miss you, Mom," he whispered. Those words echoed in her mind as she boarded the plane, her heart heavy but her resolve unshaken. She was doing this for him, for their future. Life on the base was grueling. Emily's days were filled with training, missions, and the constant hum of uncertainty. But no matter how exhausting her work was, she always found time to call Liam. Those nightly conversations were her lifeline, a reminder of what she was fighting for. She'd listen intently as he told her about his day, his voice filled with the innocence and excitement only a child could have. "I drew a picture of you in your uniform today, Mom," he said one evening. "It's on the fridge so I can see you every day." Emily smiled, her heart swelling with pride and love. Back home, Liam was adjusting to life without his mom. His grandparents, Margaret and John, did their best to fill the void, but it wasn't the same. Nights were the hardest. Sometimes Liam would wake up crying, clutching the stuffed dinosaur Emily had given him before she left. "I miss Mom," he'd say, his voice trembling. Margaret would hold him close, whispering, "She misses you too, sweetheart. But she's doing something very important and she'll be home before you know it." Meanwhile, Emily's deployment was taking its toll. The physical demands were one thing, but the emotional strain of being away from Liam was another. She missed his laughter, his hugs, and the way his eyes lit up when he talked about his dreams. She missed tucking him into bed and reading him stories. But she reminded herself that this sacrifice was temporary, a means to a better life for both of them. Then one day everything changed. Emily was in the middle of a mission when she received an unexpected call from her mother. "Emily," Margaret said, her voice tense, "Daniel's back. He's been asking about Liam." The words sent a chill down Emily's spine. Daniel Harris, the man who had walked out on them years ago, was suddenly interested in being a father. "What does he want?" Emily asked, her voice sharp with suspicion. Margaret hesitated. "He says he wants to be part of Liam's life." "But Emily, I don't trust him." Emily's mind raced. Why now? What could Daniel possibly want after all these years? She knew he had never been reliable, but this felt different, more calculated. She tried to push the thought from her mind, focusing on her duties, but the unease lingered. When she returned home, she was determined to protect Liam from whatever game Daniel was playing. But Daniel had other plans. Just weeks after Emily's homecoming, he made his move. He filed for custody of Liam, claiming that Emily's military career made her an unfit mother. The news hit Emily like a ton of bricks. How could someone who had abandoned his son now claim to care about his well-being? The battle lines were drawn, and Emily knew she was in for the fight of her life. Little did she know, this was just the beginning of a struggle that would test her strength, her love, and her faith in the system meant to protect families like hers. The courtroom was silent, the air thick with tension as Emily Carter sat stiffly in her seat, her hands clenched into fists. Across the room, Daniel Harris leaned back in his chair, a smug expression on his face. This wasn't just a custody hearing, it was a war. And Emily was determined to win, no matter the cost. But as the judge entered the room, she couldn't shake the feeling that the odds were stacked against her. The battle had begun weeks earlier when Emily received the court summons. Daniel was suing for custody of Liam, claiming that Emily's military career made her an unfit mother. His argument was simple. Her deployments meant she was often away from home, leaving Liam in the care of his grandparents. "A child needs stability," Daniel's lawyer argued, "and Sergeant Carter's lifestyle simply doesn't provide that." The words stung, but Emily refused to let them break her. She had sacrificed so much for Liam, and she wasn't about to let Daniel take him away. Emily's lawyer, Sarah Mitchell, was a fierce advocate for military parents. She had seen cases like this before and knew how to fight them. "We're going to prove that you're not just a soldier, you're a devoted mother," Sarah said, her voice firm. "Daniel may have reappeared out of nowhere, but he has no right to take Liam from you." Together, they prepared for the hearing, gathering evidence of Emily's dedication to her son and Daniel's long absence from his life. The first day of the hearing was a whirlwind of emotions. Daniel's lawyer painted Emily as a distant, absent parent, pointing to her deployments as proof that she couldn't provide a stable home for Liam. But Emily fought back, her voice steady as she described the sacrifices she had made for her son. "I joined the military to give Liam a better life," she said, her eyes locked on the judge. "Every decision I've made has been for him. I may not always be there in person, but I'm always there for him in every way that matters." The courtroom was divided. Some saw Emily as a hero, a mother who had dedicated her life to serving her country and her son. Others saw her as a soldier first and a parent second, questioning whether her career was compatible with raising a child. The media picked up the story, and soon the case was making headlines. People took sides, debating the issue on social media and in living rooms across the country. But for Emily, none of that mattered. All she cared about was Liam. Meanwhile, Liam was caught in the middle. He loved his mom and missed her terribly when she was away, but he was also curious about Daniel, the father he barely knew. "Why does Dad want to see me now?" he asked Emily one night, his voice small and uncertain. Emily hugged him tightly, her heart breaking at the confusion in his eyes. "I don't know, buddy," she said softly. "But no matter what happens, I'll always be here for you. Always." As the hearing continued, the stakes grew higher. Daniel's lawyer called witnesses to testify about Emily's deployments, painting a picture of a mother who was often absent. But Sarah countered with evidence of Emily's unwavering commitment to Liam. Letters she had written him during her deployments, photos of them together during her leave, and testimony from Margaret and John about the bond between mother and son. "Emily may serve her country, but her first priority has always been her son," Sarah argued. "She's a hero, not just for what she does in uniform, but for the love and dedication she shows as a mother." The tension in the courtroom was palpable as the judge prepared to make a decision. Emily's heart pounded in her chest as she waited, her mind racing with fear and hope. She had fought so hard for Liam, but would it be enough? The judge's words would change everything, and no one was prepared for what came next. The courtroom was silent, the weight of the moment pressing down on everyone present. Emily sat rigid in her seat, her heart pounding as she waited for the judge to speak. She had fought so hard, sacrificed so much, and now it all came down to this one moment. The judge adjusted her glasses, her expression unreadable, and began to deliver the verdict. Emily held her breath, her hands trembling in her lap. What came next would change everything. The judge's voice was calm but firm as she read the decision. "While Sergeant Emily Carter's dedication to her country is commendable, the court must prioritize the stability and well-being of the child. Given her frequent deployments and the resulting absence from Liam's life, the court grants temporary custody to Daniel Harris, with visitation rights for Sergeant Carter." The words hit Emily like a punch to the gut. She felt the room spin, her mind struggling to process what she had just heard. Temporary custody to Daniel? It couldn't be real. Daniel's smug smile was the first thing she noticed as the reality set in. He leaned over to his lawyer, whispering something that made them both chuckle. The sound was like a knife in Emily's heart. How could this be happening? How could the court take Liam away from her, the mother who had loved and cared for him his entire life, and give him to a man who had abandoned him? She felt a surge of anger, but it was quickly drowned out by a wave of despair. Liam, sitting between Margaret and John, looked confused. At 7 years old, he didn't fully understand what was happening, but he could sense the tension in the room. "Mom," he whispered, his voice trembling. Emily turned to him, her eyes filled with tears. She wanted to run to him, to hold him and tell him everything would be okay, but the bailiff stepped forward, blocking her path. "I'm sorry, ma'am," he said gently. "You'll need to arrange visitation through the court." The media erupted as soon as the verdict was announced. Cameras flashed, reporters shouted questions, and the story spread like wildfire. "Military mom loses custody of son to absent father," the headline screamed. Social media exploded with outrage, with thousands of people voicing their support for Emily and condemning the court's decision. "How can they do this to her?" one tweet read. "She's a hero and this is how we treat her." But amidst the chaos, Emily felt utterly alone. That night, Emily sat in her empty house, staring at Liam's favorite dinosaur toy on the couch. The silence was deafening. She replayed the judge's words over and over in her mind, each time feeling the same crushing sense of loss. How could she go on without Liam? He was her everything, her reason for waking up in the morning, her motivation to keep fighting. And now he was gone. But even in her darkest moment, Emily refused to give up. She picked up her phone and called Sarah, her voice steady despite the tears streaming down her face. "We're not done fighting," she said. "I'm not letting Daniel take my son. We're appealing this decision and we're going to win." Sarah didn't hesitate. "I'm with you, Emily," she said. "We'll get Liam back, I promise." The days that followed were a blur of legal filings, meetings, and sleepless nights. Emily poured every ounce of her energy into the appeal, determined to prove that she was the best parent for Liam. She gathered letters from her commanding officers, testimonials from friends and family, and even records of her video calls with Liam during her deployments. She was a mother, and she wasn't going to let anyone take that away from her. Meanwhile, Liam was struggling to adjust to life with Daniel. The man who was supposed to be his father was a stranger, and the unfamiliar surroundings only added to his confusion. "When can I see Mom?" he asked Daniel one night, his voice small and uncertain. Daniel brushed him off with a dismissive wave. "You'll see her when the court says you can," he said, his tone cold. Liam retreated to his room, clutching the stuffed dinosaur Emily had given him. He missed her more than ever. As the appeal process dragged on, Emily's resolve only grew stronger. She knew the odds were against her, but she refused to back down. This wasn't just about custody, it was about justice. It was about proving that a mother's love and sacrifice mattered, even in the face of a system that seemed determined to ignore it. And she was ready to fight until the very end. Emily Carter wasn't one to back down from a fight. The court's decision had shattered her, but it hadn't broken her spirit. As she sat in Sarah's office, surrounded by stacks of legal documents and case files, she felt a fire ignite within her. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. She was going to get Liam back, no matter what it took. And she was ready to prove that a mother's love could overcome even the greatest obstacles. The appeal process was grueling. Every day brought new challenges, from endless paperwork to tense meetings with Sarah and her legal team. Emily spent hours gathering evidence to support her case. Letters from her commanding officers praising her dedication, records of her video calls with Liam during her deployments, and testimonials from friends and family who had witnessed her unwavering commitment to her son. "We need to show the court that you're not just a soldier, you're a devoted mother," Sarah said, her voice firm. "And we're going to prove that Daniel has no right to take Liam from you." But Daniel wasn't going to make it easy. His legal team fought back at every turn, painting Emily as an absent parent who prioritized her career over her child. They even brought up her deployments as evidence of her inability to provide a stable home for Liam. "A child needs consistency," Daniel's lawyer argued during one hearing, "and Sergeant Carter's lifestyle simply doesn't allow for that." The words stung, but Emily refused to let them define her. She knew the truth. She had always put Liam first, even when it meant sacrificing her own happiness. Meanwhile, Liam was struggling to adjust to life with Daniel. The man who was supposed to be his father was a stranger, and the unfamiliar surroundings only added to his confusion. "When can I see Mom?" he asked Daniel one night, his voice small and uncertain. Daniel brushed him off with a dismissive wave. "You'll see her when the court says you can," he said, his tone cold. Liam retreated to his room, clutching the stuffed dinosaur Emily had given him. He missed her more than ever. Back home, Emily was doing everything she could to stay connected to Liam. She called him every night, her heart aching at the sound of his voice. "I miss you, buddy," she said during one call, her voice trembling. "I miss you too, Mom," Liam replied. "When are you coming to get me?" Emily swallowed the lump in her throat. "Soon, sweetheart," she promised. "I'm doing everything I can to bring you home." As the weeks went by, Emily began to uncover new evidence that could turn the case in her favor. Through a series of interviews and investigations, Sarah discovered that Daniel had a history of financial instability and had been involved in several legal disputes. "This could be the break we need," Sarah said, her eyes lighting up with hope. "If we can prove that Daniel isn't fit to care for Liam, the court might reconsider its decision." Emily's heart raced as she reviewed the documents. Could this be the key to winning back her son? She pored over every detail, determined to find something, anything, that could help her case. And then she found it, a record of Daniel's past neglect, a report from a former employer who had fired him for irresponsible behavior. It wasn't much, but it was enough to cast doubt on his ability to be a stable parent. With renewed determination, Emily and Sarah prepared for the next hearing. They knew the road ahead would be tough, but they were ready to fight. "This isn't just about custody," Emily said, her voice steady. "This is about proving that a mother's love and sacrifice matter, and I'm not going to stop until Liam is back where he belongs, with me." The day of the hearing arrived, and Emily walked into the courtroom with her head held high. She was no longer the broken woman who had left in tears weeks earlier. She was a fighter, a mother, and a soldier, and she was ready to do whatever it took to bring her son home. The courtroom was packed, the air thick with anticipation as Emily Carter took her seat. This was it, the moment she had been fighting for. Months of sleepless nights, endless paperwork, and emotional turmoil had all led to this day. She glanced at Daniel, who sat across the room with his lawyer, his expression smug and confident. But Emily wasn't intimidated. She was a soldier, a mother, and a fighter, and she was ready to win. The hearing began with Sarah presenting the new evidence they had uncovered. She laid out Daniel's history of financial instability, his legal disputes, and the report from his former employer detailing his irresponsible behavior. "Your Honor," Sarah said, her voice firm and unwavering, "Daniel Harris has proven time and time again that he is not fit to care for Liam. He abandoned his son for years, only to reappear when it suited him. Meanwhile, Sergeant Emily Carter has been a constant source of love and stability in Liam's life, even while serving her country. The court's previous decision was a mistake, and we urge you to rectify it." Daniel's lawyer fought back, arguing that Emily's military career made her an unreliable parent. "Sergeant Carter's deployments mean she is often absent from Liam's life," he said. "How can she provide the stability a child needs when she is constantly away?" But Sarah was ready. She presented records of Emily's video calls with Liam, letters from her commanding officers, and testimonials from friends and family who had witnessed her dedication as a mother. "Emily may serve her country, but her first priority has always been her son," Sarah argued. "She is a hero, not just for what she does in uniform, but for the love and sacrifice she shows as a mother." The tension in the courtroom was palpable as the judge listened intently, her expression unreadable. Emily's heart pounded in her chest as she waited for the verdict. She thought of Liam, his small face lighting up when he talked about his dreams, his laughter filling the room as they played together. She thought of the nights she had spent away from him, the sacrifices she had made to give him a better life. And she thought of the moment she had promised him she would bring him home. She wasn't going to let him down. Finally, the judge spoke. "This is a difficult case," she began, her voice calm but firm. "Both parents have presented compelling arguments, but the court must prioritize the well-being of the child. After reviewing the evidence, it is clear that Sergeant Emily Carter has been a devoted and loving mother to Liam, even while serving her country. Her sacrifices and dedication are commendable, and the court finds no reason to doubt her ability to provide a stable and nurturing home for her son." Emily's breath caught in her throat as the judge continued. "Therefore, the court reverses its previous decision and grants full custody of Liam Carter to Sergeant Emily Carter, with supervised visitation rights for Daniel Harris." The words hit Emily like a wave, relief and joy flooding through her. She had done it. She had won. The courtroom erupted in murmurs, but Emily barely noticed. Her eyes were fixed on Liam, who sat between Margaret and John, his face lighting up as he realized what had just happened. "Mom!" he shouted, running toward her. Emily dropped to her knees, tears streaming down her face as she wrapped her arms around him. "I'm here, buddy," she whispered, holding him tightly. "I'm here, and I'm never letting you go again." Daniel's smug expression had vanished, replaced by a look of shock and anger. He glared at Emily as he stood, his lawyer whispering furiously in his ear. But Emily didn't care. She had her son back, and that was all that mattered. As they left the courtroom, Emily felt a sense of peace she hadn't known in months. The fight had been long and grueling, but it had been worth it. She looked down at Liam, his small hand clutching hers, and smiled. "Let's go home, buddy," she said. Liam grinned up at her, his eyes filled with trust and love. "Okay, Mom," he said. "I'm ready." The media swarmed as they stepped outside, cameras flashing and reporters shouting questions. But Emily ignored them, focusing instead on the little boy by her side. She had fought for him and she had won. And as they walked away from the courthouse, hand in hand, Emily knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. Life after the custody battle was a new beginning for Emily and Liam. The fight had been long and grueling, but it had also been a testament to the power of a mother's love. As Emily watched Liam play in the backyard, his laughter ringing through the air, she felt a sense of peace she hadn't known in years. They were together again, and nothing could take that away from them. Emily's return to military life wasn't easy, but it was different this time. She had a renewed sense of purpose, knowing that every sacrifice she made was for Liam. Her commanding officers were supportive, allowing her more flexibility to balance her duties with motherhood. "You've proven yourself time and time again, Sergeant Carter," her captain said. "We're proud to have you on our team, and we'll do everything we can to support you and Liam." Liam, too, was thriving. The confusion and fear he had felt during the custody battle had faded, replaced by the security of knowing his mom would always be there for him. He still missed his grandparents who had moved closer to help out, but he was happiest when Emily was home. "Tell me a story, Mom," he would say, curling up next to her on the couch. And Emily would oblige, her voice filled with love as she recounted tales of bravery, resilience, and hope. The media attention had died down, but Emily's story continued to inspire. People from all over the country reached out to thank her for standing up for military parents everywhere. "You're a hero," one message read, "not just for serving your country, but for fighting for your son." Emily was humbled by the outpouring of support, but she knew the real hero was Liam. He had been her strength, her motivation, and her reason to keep fighting. As the months turned into years, Emily and Liam built a life filled with love and laughter. They celebrated birthdays, holidays, and milestones together, cherishing every moment. Emily still deployed occasionally, but she made sure to stay connected with Liam through video calls and letters. "I'm always with you, buddy," she would say. "No matter where I am, you're in my heart." One evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset, Liam turned to Emily with a thoughtful expression. "Mom," he said, "do you think I could be a soldier like you when I grow up?" Emily smiled, her heart swelling with pride. "You can be anything you want to be, Liam," she said. "But no matter what you choose, just remember to fight for what's right and never give up on the people you love." Emily's story wasn't just about a custody battle. It was about resilience, sacrifice, and the unbreakable bond between a mother and her child. It was a reminder that no matter how hard the fight, love always finds a way to win. And as Emily looked at Liam, his eyes filled with dreams and possibilities, she knew that every sacrifice had been worth it. To the viewers watching her story, Emily had a final message. Life will throw challenges at you, but don't let them define you. Fight for what matters, stand up for what's right, and never forget the power of love. Because in the end, it's not the battles we win that define us. It's the love we give and the lives we touch along the way. And with that, Emily and Liam walked into their future, hand in hand, ready to face whatever came their way together.